Lagos, Nigeria. 2 weeks after all of this began, Semi and the other male classmates slowly began to trickle into class. They've been out for weeks while male government and those over the school were deciding what to do while the world was seemingly upside down. Everyone pointed to God or some higher power. They could think of no other explanation. The boys' fathers were fearful to send them to school. What if they disappeared next? It was first thought that maybe the girls were all kidnapped, but they quickly learned it was happening across the globe. And strange enough, they could still communicate by phone. Semi, on his own, had been studying and researching things about frequency and the supernatural and the paranormal. He now believed that maybe he was drawn to those things for a reason. His classmate Etefia looked absolutely exhausted, like he'd been crying for the entire 2 weeks. His mother, his sisters, gone. All of his female family members, gone. "How are you holding up?" Simi asked him. "Not good. I'm scared. It seems like the world is ending. But it's not happening like the Bible said. If it were the rapture, how come we can still talk to them by phone? There's nothing about telephones in the Bible. My uncle says that God may be giving men a break from women." Etefia's uncle was a proud misogynist. He was a womanizer and never took any responsibility for anything. Absolutely everything was a woman's fault in one way or the other. But if God were giving men a break, then he was giving women one too. Scientists and spiritualists in both dimensions were starting to learn more about what people were calling the divide. A spokesman from each country came over the airways in both realms to address their people. They were all basically saying the same thing. 1. We think that quantum physics is somehow involved. 2. We believe there could be a spiritual aspect to this, but we cannot prove it. 3. If you have not been able to reach your loved one of a different gender, keep trying. You may eventually get through, as there is some aspect of frequency at work here, and the cell towers and satellites still work. 4. Do not go into a panic. Your loved ones could be in the very same room as you are, but in a completely different dimension. 5. If you are a single parent of a child of the opposite gender, try to reach a trusted person around that child to care for them until we get this thing figured out. Try to stay calm. Try your best to conduct yourself as usual, if you can. There are emergency numbers in your area dedicated to this situation only. And if you spot someone of the opposite sex, or if your loved one suddenly reappears, please report it so we can figure out why all this is happening. In what people were calling the woman's realm, female scientists and spiritualists clamored to try to find answers as to why all of this was happening. In the meantime, clusters began to form. Women that knew how to do jobs, usually dominated by men, were coming forward. No one was charging for anything. It's like they knew they had to stick together. They knew they had to help one another. There were women whose sons had seemingly vanished, and these women were heartbroken at the possibility of never seeing them again. The only comfort being the static laced communication by video and phone. and that their sons had their fathers, male family members, and sudden stand-in uncles and guardians that were looking after them in the other realm, which didn't put them at ease much at all. In both dimensions, every household and dwelling, from a mansion to a cardboard box, from deep in the woods to the city high-rise, was checked for children that may have been unintentionally left by a single parent. Communities worked with emergency responders to knock on every door or break it down if need be. Male children were not disappearing from their mothers until puberty, but what if there was a single father with a little girl, left scared, hungry, alone? Female and male caregivers suddenly found themselves with brand new foster children with mouths to feed. At first, there was a curfew in both dimensions, but that soon laxed. Food was being rationed. Nobody knew what we were dealing with here. Mothers around the world who had boys that would be going through puberty soon were on high alert. It would seem that they vanished suddenly, when really they were transferred to an all-male dimension that mirrored the one they left, except no women, no girls. Are you trying to tell me that we manifested this? The Prime Minister from England speaks up as a room of male presidents, leaders, and dignitaries finally tried to put their heads together to find out why they had been separated from all women. Sitting at a table in front of them was a group of scientists and spiritualists. Dr. Shepard, a scientist from Yale University, speaks up. We are exploring other possibilities, but the only thing that makes sense is that there is some sort of frequency or quantum jumping at work here. You have to think past the surface level, think deeper. Even me as a scientist, I've had to do that. We've all had to do that. Men and women have been telling each other we don't need each other for centuries. Maybe the universe is finally listening. An uproar starts around the room. A voice on the microphone excels above the other voices. Just look at some of the content online. We are constantly telling women we don't want them. There's not a value, that we hate them. No wonder. Again, an uproar in the room. A delegate from the Middle East stands up and shouts, "This is God. This is Allah." Another from a Christian country yells, "Yes, this is God. He's punishing us for something." There was no solution, only speculation, arguing, and yelling. Dr. Shepard, someone whose work was based on measured facts, sat quietly as the men yelled back and forth across the aisles. He couldn't dismiss any of their ideas.